So good morning, everybody. I am the facilitator today, and just a few housekeeping things. So, Eracism is the slogan of the group Erace, which was formed in New Orleans in the summer of 1993. We seek ways through person-to-person communications to show that we are committed to treating fellow human beings. I might have an old one, actually, I think. Uh, Beings of color with love and respect. Join us. I shall do the land acknowledgement, seeing as it's extremely appropriate for today's discussion. We acknowledge that what we know as the United States is the traditional territory of indigenous peoples, and that there are many more nations and tribes that could be named, but unfortunately I cannot get them all. Members of our group today are on the lands of the Tocowan, Lipan Apache, and Comanche in Austin, the Chitimacha and Choctaw in New Orleans, the Creeks and Cherokees in Atlanta, the Lenape and Piscataway in Maryland, the Wampanoag and Nipmuc people in Boston, and the Kalua and Mojave in Riverside, California, plus the Kahari in North Carolina. I couldn't remember which tribe it was, so I looked it up. So I'm hoping that is correct. And there were a few others as well. But we thank their ancestors for being stewards of these lands through the generations and hope that we can continue this stewardship into the future. So I will get to do introductions after I've given a few rules and regulations. Everybody will obviously be respectful. And we ask that you all keep yourselves on mute unless you're speaking, of course. I'm going to keep a list. And if you want to be on the list, you raise one finger, kind of wave it around so I can see it on the screen. And I might point or say your name quietly. And hopefully that won't disturb the speakers. But I think most of you are kind of used to that. If you, we have a timer as well, and I will test that in a second. If you have a clarifying question, then you raise two fingers after the speaker has spoken or during, just so I know that that's what you want. We only have two clarifying questions after someone has spoken. And the clarifying question is, it's not to give your opinion. It's basically to say, I didn't understand what you meant by a term or whatever, and can you clarify what you meant by? So it's not just for you to go into a monologue or an argument. You know, we try to stay very respectful, as I said before, on this format. So let me test the timer for you, and please tell me if you can hear this. Oh. Great. Okay. So let's introduce ourselves, and that starts with Nancy.
Good morning. I'm Nancy Moore. I'm located in the New Orleans area, and I have been coming to Erace since June of 2007. Good to see everybody. Can't wait to get started.
Phyllis.
Morning, everybody. I'm Phyllis. I'm in New Orleans, and I've been coming to Erace since 2008.
Beatrice.
Good morning, Beatrice Sublé in East Point, Georgia, hoping not to have Herschel Walker as our senator. Good morning, everyone. Glad to see you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Teresa. Teresa, do I say your name correct? Is it Teresa or Teresa?
It's fine. People say it anyway. I was amazed that people can't get the in Teresa and will say my name any old way. But anyway, you said it perfectly in one of the variations of my name. So I'm Teresa. I'm in Fayetteville, North Carolina, and I've been coming since I think September of this year.
Thank you. Marla.
Sorry, was it Marva or Marla?
Oh, sorry, Marla with an L. Marla.
Okay, sorry. Hey, I'm Marla. I've been coming to Erace since I think around 2020 or a little before maybe, and looking forward to hearing the discussion today.
Thank you. Marion.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Marion Lagarde. I'm here in New Orleans. I've been participating in the Erace discussion since June of 1993.
Thank you. Lynn.
Good morning, Lynn Frank. I was in New York and I caught a cold. I am located in New Orleans and I've been coming since the summer of 2019. And I hope that you don't have Herschel Walker either,
Yeah.
because I know that I'm stuck with that wretched John Kennedy.
Cindy.
Good morning, everybody. So much of the politics is scary of who the possibilities are, but there are also some really good other possibilities. So pay attention to who you vote for, and for sure vote. I've been writing letters. It's exhausting, but it's important, I think. So I'm in New Orleans, uptown, live with Bill, retired teacher. Take care.
Thank you. Larry.
Good morning, I'm Larry. I started coming to Erace back around 1995, and this is an excellent article this morning. Looking forward to it.
Good, thank you. Leonetta. Leonetta? Uh-oh, can you hear me, Leonetta? There we go. I'll come back to you perhaps a bit later. Nora.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Nora. I'm in Austin. I've been coming for about a year and looking forward to this discussion.
Great, thank you, Nora. Jean.
I'm Jean Walker. No relation whatsoever to Herschel. I'm in Silver Spring, Maryland, and I've been coming to Erace New Orleans, I guess, about a year now. And it's a powerful article. Look forward to the discussion.
Thank you.
Do have to leave early. I have another problem.
Okay.
Thank you.
Pedro. Good to see you here, Pedro.
Yeah, it's good to be back. I actually was in North Carolina the last couple of weeks and enjoyed my stay. It's good to be back. I've been with Erace or attending these meetings. I'm into my third year. People keep mentioning they enjoyed the article. I just saw the video. Was there an article?
Yes, that's what it is. That's
okay. Yeah. I look forward to the discussion. Thank you.
Marva with a V.
Good morning. My name is Bob Mulva. Look forward to this discussion. I enjoyed the video and it was most enlightening.
Good, thank you. Oh, they jumped around on me. Francie.
Francie Manning, Austin. Got to vote for Lloyd Doggett for our representative.
Cheryl, sorry, Cheryl.
Good morning. It's raining in New Orleans and we had a nice wet dog walk. I have been with racism since before Katrina, and then with COVID, got to join you all a lot. It's great to see so many faces here today. Yeah. It's also really wonderful that this article is up for us to discuss. I wish every single person could see this article. I have a movie about it that a friend lent me that I like to show to people. I just think it's so great, but I really enjoy the presenter and the way he brings it up and the screens and everything. Thank you, Louise.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you. Glenn.
I'm Glenn Abdullah from New Orleans, and looking forward to the meeting.
Thank you. Amal.
Good morning. Good morning. I'm Amal. Been coming to racism since 1997 and never stopped. Always enjoyed coming. Always enjoyed different opinions, ideas. Here to teach as well as to learn.
Thank you, Michelle.
Hi everyone, I'm Michelle and I'm in Austin, and I apologize for being late this morning. I'm trying to still recover from my 12 days of working the polls here in Austin, so.
Thank you for that.
It
And
was
you haven't missed much
busy.
apart from all the introductions.
It was busy yesterday, so I'm hoping that's good.
Yes.
So thank you.
I think it's just Bill that I've missed out. Is that correct? Bill, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Bill Ives, Cindy's husband. I live in New Orleans, and I've been making monthly donations to Reverend Warnock, Sherry Beasley, Val Demings, Mandela Barnes, and about 10 other candidates. So we're doing our best that we can. Unfortunately, we don't get to vote for one of those. We're going to either vote for Gary Chambers or Luke
Okay.
Nixon.
So, Bill, just
I'm
introduce
sorry.
yourself and how long have you been in a race?
About 5 or 6 years.
Okay. Sorry, there's so many of us, we've gone through quite a bit, just introductions. So I got everyone right? Yep, okay.
Greer just logged in.
Oh, okay, Greer, welcome. Introduce yourself.
My name is Greer. I've been attending a race since about 2007, 2008. And good morning, everyone.
Good morning. So the reason I bought this video was because the indigenous peoples of America are really a big issue with me, and I feel that a lot of their plight is just brushed under the carpet and we don't talk about it, and I really feel that we do need to talk about it. The two things that I picked out from the article, from the video, it says that we have no common memory, which I thought rings true, right? We're all from, obviously, many brought over as slaves, many who were killed with genocide and sickness. Some came over for religious freedom, some came just to get rich. I mean, there was, so there's no real common memory, which I thought was very true. And we obviously do not have a national dialogue on this. We try and attempt, like groups like this, obviously, and but I just don't think it is it's not the biggest problem that is put in the forefront of what we need to resolve. And I do think we need to resolve it to be able to move on. It's a huge issue. And by the way, just to add, that there are the four races: the Caucasian, the Mongoloid, Negroid, and Australoid. There was no name for native peoples of America. And they made those names, by the way, in the 1800s. And they thought that all of the native peoples would be annihilated, would be, eradicated from the planet. So there was no need to give them a race. So just, put that one there in your head. Anywho, we're going to start the list. And I know there's a few of you that want to talk, so with me. Oh, and if anyone is raising a hand, I can see that on the participants, right? Nod, yes? Okay, good. All right, so go ahead. Who wants to be first on the list? Reverend, and then I've got, who else? Marion, is that raising a finger or are you just touching your nose with your finger? You're raising your finger? Marion. Beatrice. Okay, well, Larry, go ahead. Oh, wait,
Thank
hold on.
you. Thank
Yeah.
you. A couple of things I wanted to point out quickly was some quotes from the video, We the People. And I think the whole concept was to point out the whole hypocrisy of the founding of the United States of America. And a couple of quotes he said, he quoted Obama in his final State of the Union, that he was talking about the need in our nation of a new politics. And he quoted Obama as saying, we the people. Our Constitution begins with those three simple words we've come to recognize mean all the people. Obama, a Black man, knew better, but he was beholden to the people. President of the United States, he had to say what the people wanted him to say. So he had to say, we the people. He knew better. Next, he quoted a papal bull published by Pope Nicholas in 1452 about invade, search out, capture, vanquish, and subdue all pagans whatsoever and other enemies of Christ. See, we think we could leave religion out of the whole conversation, but it's all over everything. And then another one in the Declaration of Independence. This didn't come from We the People, but the so-called founding fathers, in stating their grievances against the king, they stated, he has excited domestic insurrection amongst us and has endeavored to bring on the inhabitants of our frontiers the merciless Indian savages. That's in the Declaration of Independence. But yet the same ones that called the Indian savages mercilessly could mercilessly beat a slave to death. And so that's all. Thank you. Right on time.
Thank you, Larry. Marion?
I remember, first of all, Louise, thank you for the article. I remember many, many years ago when I was in my late 20s, I was teaching a unit on in third grade about the Native Americans that lived in the Louisiana area. And it glossed over the fact that these people were mistreated and despised. So I've always found this despicable and heinous, that people who have lived here for eons were treated in such a horrible way. And again, Louise, I want to say thank you. There has not been enough attention to giving these people what is due to them. Now, rambling off the topic a little bit, I worked with a woman who was married to a Cherokee Indian, and I took one of his classes when we had to do professional improvement. And because I worked with his wife, I felt comfortable enough asking him questions. And after class one day, he and I had a very interesting conversation. It was very tragic. And he told me how, as little children, if they were caught speaking the tribal language, they were beaten. And I was horrified. And the man was standing there talking to me with the most pleasant expression on his face, and he was smiling. And he said, "With Marion, as you can see, I survived." I told him I thought it was horrible that these children were beaten if they were observed or heard speaking the tribal language. So that memories always stay with me. So I'm so glad that you're addressing this topic.
Thank you. Oh, there you go. Good timing. I have Beatrice, Bill, Greer, Teresa, and Glenn. Did I miss someone, or is there anyone else who wants to add to that? Nope. Okay, Beatrice.
I thought that this was really, really powerful, seeing this person presenting views himself, hearing that. The idea of we the people helping us understand the Constitution, he says, is a white supremacy document. He never thought of it, and who is intentionally excluded. The quote from Ruth Bader Ginsburg was just chilling, and it makes us aware that we don't need to ever lionize anyone, that people are complicated and things that they have said that we listen to and we say, no, that couldn't be that person. And we, either people move forward in their thinking, or or they're just complicated, as I said. I always, another thing I thought when he said truth and conciliation, very, very excellent way of looking at it, because we try to use the South African notion with Bishop Tutu of truth and reconciliation. But what he was saying in the video was that we cannot reconcile. We have to conciliate, because we haven't been in harmony in the first place. Another quote that we learned from the wisdom of our indigenous hosts. How would it have been had had the Europeans who came here learned from the indigenous people how to take care of the land, how to treat it as the mother, how not to slaughter buffaloes at will, if they had learned rather than overpowered and killed and committed genocide. Another thing, we quote Iroquois as saying we make decisions 7 generations forward. He said that the Iroquois also look 7 generations back, but because we have to remember our past. We in this country want to forget stuff, and if we forget it, it's okay. And finally, that we have to have a common memory if we're going to move forward and have community. There was so much in here that was so powerful, and it was just wonderful. It was wonderful. And those are some quotes that I recall and my feeling about it.
Thank you. Right on time. So sorry, Bill.
Yeah, this video, Cindy and I watched it together. He's a very articulate man. He put forth a lot of issues that were consistent with things I've heard before. The Popal bells, as I've said before, the Catholic Church in Rome was originally found to support the Roman Empire and support obedience. And then it was misused to support colonialism around the world. So I was aware of this, but reading those things, there's so much in the movie. The doctrine of discovery. My daughter has written a book about mountains, and she said the white Europeans came and conquered mountains and gave them European names. But in her book, she tries to use the indigenous names. Indigenous people are just ignored. When we were in Taos, Mexico, we discovered that the longest continuous inhabited city in North America is the Taos Pueblo. It's been there for 1,000 years, 500 years before Columbus stumbled onto the West Indies. And they talk about the longest war in American history is the Afghan War. Well, the longest war in US history is the US cavalry against the Comanches and Apaches. They ignore the contributions of indigenous people as though they don't exist, which they were treated that way. It's not limited to North America. In South Africa, there was genocide against indigenous people, especially the ones around Cape Town. And I will.
Do you want to get back on, Bill?
I want to listen to some other people. I do have more to say, but I
can put you back on
for a while.
No? Okay.
Don't put me back on until I raise my hand.
Okay. Yes, sir. Greer.
Okay. I want to sort of piggyback on Reverend Larry. I don't believe in any way that Obama believed those words that he said. I mean, just look at his tenure in office and how he was treated. Look at how Black people were treated in this country. He's became president and people expected him to change the world, which was impossible with this election. And with Australia, there was a doctrine called terra nullius. I spoke on this before, which means nobody is here. Yet you had all the Aborigines that were there. But, you know, like everywhere else, when things are colonized and due to the papal doctrine, it's like, okay, nobody's here. But yet people were there. Eddie Mambo, he was Aboriginal. He took it to court. I think it was like in the early 60s. It was the Torres Strait Islands. There were fish traps that were carved out that had been there for hundreds, if not thousands of years. They used that as the basis of the fight, that somebody had to be here to build those traps. They took it to the High Court in Australia in 1992. And he died just before that was handed down. That terra nullius in that area had to be removed because people were there. So my thing is, if you're going to remove that doctrine saying nobody was there, then all of Australia. So was there just people there? See, even in trying to right
You
or
want to
wrong.
get back on the list?
Okay, can I just say one more thing?
Sure.
They're still perpetuating the wrong, even though they tried to right it. Thank you.
But do you want to get back on anyway?
No, I'll let you know.
Okay.
Thank you, though.
All right. Teresa.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to put in the chat one of my blog posts, and it's titled "We the American People." For 8 years, I produced and hosted a monthly theme-inspired spoken word and storytelling show. So when I saw this article, keep calling it an article, video, this TED Talk, I really appreciated the take he took. Now, he took a much, much deeper dive than the piece that I wrote, but I also felt like the Constitution never really included me, didn't include women, didn't include Black people. And I totally agreed with him about, you know, it was written by and for land-owning white men. So the exclusion, even in school, I thought it was BS when they said, well, every time they say him and man, they mean all of us. They don't mean, and I just, that doesn't seem right. Even as a child, I never fully bought into the Kool-Aid, no matter how politically correct it was taught in school. And you just peel back the layers. And one of the things that I really appreciate about his talk was that if things were righted, like we see in Marvel movies, the United States and the entire world would no longer look like it looks, and that terrifies people. And I'm thinking, what are you afraid of? Look at the fact that we're in a pandemic. Look at how we wreck our climate. We're not in harmony with nature. What really are you propping up? This unchecked power is destroying us. We are one of the most not even the most, I would say we are the most destructive species on this planet. It's no surprise to me that billionaires want to go to another planet. And really, Earth may improve if billionaires did leave this planet. because it's really the 99% of us that would actually work together without the 1% pulling all the damn strings. So I appreciate if any of you would just read my take on We the American People, but yes, that is me dressed as the Statue of Liberty. At one point, half my closet was costumes. So I always hosted in costume and read my piece. Was that the timer? I'm
Yes,
not
it
sure.
was. And do you wanna
Okay,
get-
okay.
wanna get back on?
I just wanted to share those two things. I may get on
Okay.
later. Thank you.
Thank you. We have Glenn and then Amal. Is there anyone else who wants to? Phyllis.
Yes, I believe in we the people.
And Bill.
I think that I am a citizen, a full citizen of the United States, not 3/5 of a man. And the Indian is just that Indian who spoke, he's just like African American that have been misused and tortured and abused over centuries, and he has a scarred psyche where he can't stand to hear the word America. He can't stand to hear Constitution because of his scarred psyche. This what he was talking about, he is not it's like a computer that needs to be updated. He don't have the updates. He's talking about the way people thought of the Constitution, or how people weren't ready to follow the Constitution, or how people or how this he's not looking at the Constitution as something that is organic, that is always growing. Just from the 60s, I'm getting more justice in this country from the time of the Civil Rights Bill. I'm getting more justice in this country. I have lived the day to see that when policemen kill one of us and we get the evidence on them, they go to jail for it. I've seen where white people, if somebody kills somebody like Emmett Till, they would be prosecuted today. I see them go with cold cases and go back and prosecute these people who had did wrong in the past. We need to do some updating in our consciousness. We're frozen in the past, and we're not dealing in justice. How much time I got left?
Couple of seconds.
All right. Well,
You want to get back on?
sure, definitely.
All right. Okay, so we have them all.
Can you hear me?
Certainly can.
So it's a lot in that particular piece to unfold and to dive into. One of the interesting things though that he said that a point that I always try to hit home when it goes into the idea of we the people. He said that the way that the European powers were able to subdue, to treat the other people, other human beings on the planet the way they did, because they didn't see them as human. So we, the people, cannot apply to people when the people that you're subduing are not seen as people. And I thought that was quite interesting, that that's what made it so easy for European powers to go around the world, whether they were in Australia, South Africa, in the Americas, wherever they went, to subdue other human beings the way that they did. It's because they didn't see them as human in the first place.
Right.
And that's the key part that I think people miss as it relates to the Constitution. It cannot apply to you when you're not seen as a human being. And that's the ingredient that makes the Constitution, when you say that it needs to be is constantly growing. Well, it can't grow if it doesn't see you as a human being. And at what point in time has it applied equally to people in this country, regardless to race or gender? It never has. And I challenge you to give me a present or a historical example of a time when it has, and watch me debunk it.
Thank you, Amal. That's an excellent point and absolutely correct. We have Phyllis.
Yeah, I think the video shows that the role of religion in the discussion, especially of white supremacy, is to show that it has absolutely supported and upheld white supremacy. It was Christians who put indigenous people in children into schools and stripped them of their language, their cultural ways, their families, and murdered them in many cases in those schools. Mass graves have been found in Canada, for instance. There is no way that all of this white supremacy psychopathology would be possible if it weren't for being upheld by Christian leaders, whether they're popes or pastors of all stripes. What we should really be aware of is not necessarily our situation, whether we're white or black in this conversation. I don't think anybody here identifies as indigenous. Correct me if I'm wrong. But indigenous people in this country are living a life none of us see very much, and none of us understand very much. And the person in the video makes very strong points that neither his people, no indigenous people in this country, no female identifying people have the same rights as straight, cis, heterosexual, Christian, wealthy white men do in this country. And those of us who are also white benefit from that in ways that no black person or no indigenous person could. Thank you.
Thank you. Perfect time. Bill. And then Glenn.
Several years ago, I had heard a very
Gotcha.
pervasive talk by a man who argued correctly that the American Revolution was fought by many people to protect slavery. It was not just the American Civil War, the American Revolution. When the Southern colonies observed with alarm the growing abolitionist movement in England, they were afraid that British would abolish slavery in the British Empire. So they agreed to join the northern colonies on the condition that slavery would be protected in the Constitution. And the Northerners gave in. John Adams got a lot of grief from his wife for doing it, but they gave in. And so the Constitution was done to protect slavery. The American Revolution was fought to protect slavery. And the British did abolish slavery in the British Empire. They waited too long, but they abolished slavery 20 years before the Civil War. And so the fears of these white colonialists. And the Constitution has been amended a number of times, theoretically giving women the power to vote and other powers. theoretically giving Black men the power to vote. But I don't think the Constitution's ever been amended to give Indigenous people their rights. So that's a shortcoming. And we say, when we say people take an oath to preserve and protect the Constitution, I see that now in new light after watching this video.
Right. Do you want to get back on, Bill?
No, I'm fine for now.
Okay. So we have Glenn and then Beatrice. Is there anyone else that wants?
This is Lynette. I have a clarifying question for Bill.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yes, Bill, my question is, so that was, that's a lie that we were taught in school, or what was the reason for the American Revolution?
Bill, did you hear the question? Bill?
Unmute.
Must be going. Okay.
I'm sorry, I apologize. I think Leonetta asked if the stories we were taught about the American Revolution in school were lies.
Yes, that's my question.
Yeah, I would say they're half-truths because white men fought for their freedom, but the freedom did not extend to African slaves.
Right.
So it was a misrepresentation of what really happened. And when I heard this, I was under this oppression too. And when I heard this man talk about 3 years ago, it just became so clear to me what was going on.
Thank you. Now Glenn. We have Glenn, Beatrice, and I got you, Teresa. And Pedro. Anyone else? Anyone else? Larry. And Glenn, take it away.
Glenn's gone.
Oh.
He
well,
must have lost connection.
Oh, okay. Yeah, lost connection or the reason why he's on these meetings. Anywho, Beatrice.
I wanted to say that in light of what Glenn was saying, and he's gone, that no one is denying progress. No one is, I think we cannot deny progress, but we have to always be aware of the structural inequities that remain, and that there's always work to be done when it comes to the conditions of persons that are marginalized or oppressed. I mean, I as a teenager for a summer, I worked with another group we call Caravans with the United Church of Christ Caravan students, and we worked in South Dakota. And I have never been so disturbed as I was by seeing the places that Native American people were living, and wondered how in the cold of South Dakota they ever survived. Again, looking at what's going on now, the Supreme Court, little by little, the gains that have been made are being chipped away. The pre-clearance of the Voting Rights Act, and now affirmative action on the block. I mean, to say that we need to recognize that things are all right, or I'm not sure what the standing of people is who say things are going along all right and we're fine in the country. We need to open our eyes and look better and just think kumbaya. I'm not there, and I'm not going to be there. It's going to take maybe 200 years. I'll be long gone. We are going backwards in so many ways. We're still fighting the same battles in so many places. The public schools, the opportunities for children to make there's so much work. So I think we have to not close our eyes and be hopeless. I mean, close our hearts and be hopeless that we cannot make gains, but we have to look. We have to know the history, and we have to know where we're going now. If Reconstruction, if people right out of enslavement had been able to do what we were doing in those few years after enslavement, our people were making some progress. And if we just leave us alone and let us do, but it has never happened.
Hey, Beatrice, Cindy has a clarifying question.
Yes, indeed, Cindy. What you say, baby? Hello. Oh.
The question had to do with one simple word in what you said. I totally agree with the main idea. You said we have to go back. I'm not sure we were ever there.
Point of order, though. You do. What is the question?
What's the question?
How can you go back to a land of opportunity if we were never there?
I'm not sure that, well, I don't know how to answer your question because I'm not really sure how to answer your question. I don't think that we ever were there. We always, it's aspirational. It's always aspirational.
Okay.
We keep working. Yeah, we keep working.
All right.
And, yeah. Glenn, I was amening you, Glenn, you were gone, baby.
Oh, Glenn, did you come back?
Yeah, he's back.
Okay, Glenn, then you're up next. Are you back? Oh, whoa. That's, sorry, is he back or not? No, yes.
He is, but he looks frozen. There he is.
Uh-oh. So Glenn, if you come alive again, I'll put you back on.
He's back.
Okay. Glenn, are you ready?
You got to unmute, Glenn.
I don't know how long I will stay back and to keep going off, but oh, okay. I missed all the comments, so but I'll say this, that I did hear someone spoke on saying that about slavery, with they keep slavery in the country. Something happened 300 years ago.
Uh-oh. Did that freeze again? Yeah, Glenn, you're having problems, so I will get back to you if it gets better, if you can hear me. But for now, we'll go on to Teresa.
Thank you. I wanted to make two comments. You know, one thing that I always think is humorous.
Ignore that. Sorry.
Oh, one thing I think is humorous is that people talk about amendments as if the word amendment doesn't mean change. And, you know, they'll shout to the top of the roof or the rafters about, well, this is the amendment, this is the amendment. And I keep thinking, do you realize that amendment means change and that we can change that? What does it take? 2/3 of Congress to change an amendment or add an amendment or to amend the amendment. So that kind of makes me optimistic, you know. But secondly, when we were talking about the British monarchy, how many of you also predicted that when the Queen died, a lot of the monarchy, I'm expecting this to collapse within 3 years. I mean, I look at former Prince Charles as the ultimate adult child living in his parents' basement. He cannot regale the world like she did. And even his son and Kate and Will, or whatever their names are, I don't really care. But when they tried to do their little tour, like their grandmother, like his grandmother did, it was like that felt, you know, just talk about uncomfortable in the room. And they went to the the Caribbean, and they were asking for reparations. It's like, no, we're not going to kiss the ring of the grandson, you know. And this is another, brown people want to shake the foundations of how we built our wealth. Yes, and you want to keep propping that up. So figure out a way that this can happen in a civil way. I'm just amazed about how they're so propped up and clueless about the rest of the world, and how he went to bat for racism in some professional sporting team, but couldn't say boo about his sister-in-law being subjected to racism. So it's really interesting. Yeah, I'm sure my time is about up, but those are the two factors I wanted to just bring out. Second, you know, the amendments, and also it's not just Native Americans on this continent that are saying we want reparations, we want our land back, and let's make this happen. Okay, I hear it. Thanks.
Thank you, Teresa. Sorry.
Do you see
Zoned out.
Cheryl?
Say what?
Cheryl has a finger up.
Ah, great, Cheryl. Yes, but we first have Pedro.
Is that me?
Pedro is
Yeah,
you.
thanks. Hey, great video. Actually, I only watched half of it because I was just taking a lot of notes. Can't wait to get back to it. What occurs to me, and what when you think about what I think about is this kind of deconstructing oppression, is to understand how it has always been sanitized as normal in the epoch it occurs in. So, that's what the Constitution was, is it was, as appropriately identified, it was indicating that if you're subhuman, then you do not get the same rights as white landed aristocracies, and therefore it appears to be a rational, normal kind of outcome. I mean, Charles Beard wrote the book, The Economic Interpretation of the American Constitution, which is kind of a study on that very topic as well. Citizens United now we have in our world. You have a situation that allows unlimited contributions to candidates. In other words, what you hear on TV in this term acculturated, how we are influenced outside of our awareness by not just the advertising for candidates, but when you have the 6 or 7 corporations that own 80% of all the news and information that goes to our ears, through our brain, we are acculturated to these implicit biases and such. So these methods have changed. The oppression remains the same. The middle class is completely destroyed. And that's just simply a wealth transfer to that top 1% that that Teresa was referring to, that she wished, might leave this world. I think it's a little more complicated than that, but those are some general rules that I think are really, really striking in that powerful video. So thank you.
Thank you, Pedro. Perfect. We're all getting so good with this timing, huh? I have Larry, Amal, and Cheryl. Is there anyone else? No? D'accord. Larry.
If you have a tree that's unattractive, you can prune the leaves, you can cut back on the limbs, but that tree going to grow back again. If you don't want that tree to grow back, you got to cut it. You got to hit it at the roots. Get to the roots. And so we could experience personal successes in America. We've accomplished this, we've accomplished that. This doesn't exist no more. But we must get to, if we don't get to the root cause of racism and white supremacy in America, all the civil rights bills and legislations that they're just dressing up. And on something Bill said about, the slavery being one of the causes of the American Revolution. I want to just read something briefly that was in the book, The 1619 Project. And it says, in early 1775, James Madison, who operated as a slave labor camp in Orange County, Virginia, reported hearing a rumor that British Parliament had introduced a bill to emancipate the colonists enslaved. In addition, a report from the Virginia House of Burgesses accused British officials of contemplating a most diabolical scheme to offer freedom to our slaves and turn them against their masters. Both further inflamed colonists already worried about the British encroaching on their property rights. And this property rights cause was the same thing that the white Southerners used for the Civil War. So, Bill is right on. And this is one of the reasons why a lot of people don't want the 1619 Project or critical race theories to be taught in school, because it would just get to the root of America's problems. That's all.
Yeah. Good point. Blah, 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 blah. I have Amal, Cheryl, and then Bill. Is there anyone else? Nope. Okay, Amal.
Yeah, I so value Beatrice's opinion and her ideas of things over the years that she's spoken, and I've heard her. I had an opportunity to absorb her wisdom. And she said something when she was speaking that nobody is denying that there have been some progress made in the United States. And I'm gonna have to respectfully disagree on that. In the I'm assuming it was the 1960s, someone asked Malcolm X the same question: has progress been made in the United States? And Malcolm X answered by saying that if you stab a man in his back 9 inches and pull the knife out 6, would you call that making progress?
Right.
And so that's what I say as it relates to people who say that progress has been made in the United States. You know, you can't stab a man in his back 9 inches and pull it out 6 and then say progress has been made. So on the surface, yes, it may look like some things have gotten better or some things have changed, but I think, as Larry was just saying, at the root of it, no progress has been made. White supremacy is still the rule of the day. And until that is dismantled, then like Larry said, all the legislation, all of the civil rights bill, you could vote whoever you feel like you want to vote in and think they're gonna get things done. Until white supremacy is defeated, then we still got this same issue going. So no progress has been made.
Thank you. Again, perfect timing. Greer, I've got you. So we've got Cheryl, Bill, and Greer, and Larry. And anyone else? No. Okay, Cheryl.
I really, I'm just chiming in to say it's so great to listen to everyone today. Larry is so correct on the 1619 project and how important it is for all of us to read. And with Teresa, all I can say is I noticed kind of the same kind of thing come up for me, just that I thought about all the monarchies and all their celebration and how wonderful it would be if they all fell to their knees. And if that can happen in 3 years, then you have a great dreaming, foreseeing way of looking at things, because I can't wait. I was really struck by the talk because of things that, these are the things I wrote down, is just for whites, our uncommon history is discovery, expansion, opportunity, and exceptionalism, and then the other side, the stolen lands, broken treaties, slavery, Jim Crow, boarding schools, ethnic cleansing, genocide, family separation, Indian removal, internment camps, mass incarceration. It just goes on and on and on. And so correct. And the fact that we need a truth and what was it? Not reconstitution, but a different way of looking at this, because it just needs to be completely redone. I don't know how we get there without really taking everything apart. Thanks.
Thank you. Hey, I am going to close the list. We have Bill, Greer, and Larry. And if there's anyone with a burning desire to add.
Pedro.
Pedro, did you have your finger up?
Yeah, if we have time.
Yeah, sure. I'll add Pedro, and then I'm going to close the list. So let's have Bill, please.
First of all, I want to agree with Amal. I always appreciate the wisdom that Beatrice shares, but I also appreciate the wisdom that Amal shares. And I agree with him completely that there's no, while progress is being made in some ways, there's no progress fighting racism. And Larry provided the perfect metaphor. We've pruned the branches of racism, but they grow back. And we all see that. There's no progress made against the root cause. And while I see changes, I was at a store, AT&T store, and all the staff were Black. When I was a kid, there would have been no Black men working in that store. So there's increased job opportunities, but somewhat, I say. But racism, there's been no progress from my perspective until we get at the roots. We have to have truth and reconciliation. But first, there's a truth before there's reconciliation. And it can't be reconciliation, as the video pointed out, because there's no conciliation in the first place. So anyway, thanks for everybody for your comments.
Thank you, Bill. Greer.
I think we use the word progress, I think, too freely without really thinking about it. If you think of racism like an infection, when a person has an infection, you don't go, well, oh, it's better because they have less microbes or whatever the vector is infecting them. You don't go, oh, well, yeah, it's better because you're still infected. There is no end until the infection is cured. It's like we make ourselves complacent and happy what it's sort of being better. But in actuality, that's just settling. That's not getting what you deserve. That's not having what you have a right to as an American citizen. The protection, everything that goes along with it. We wouldn't have this group right now. We're all sitting here because obviously there's a problem. But things are getting better. If there was better, true better, we wouldn't, this group right here wouldn't even exist. And I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Greer. Larry, and then Pedro.
You know, to show you how deep it is.
Sorry, Larry, hold on 1 second. Sorry. Glenn, I know you were not working properly, but can I add you to what you missed, or?
Yeah, I'm back now.
Okay, so I'm going to add you. It'll be Larry, Pedro, and then Glenn, and then we close list, okay?
Okay. To show you how deep it is, when those who were in Charlottesville, I think it was, marching, Jews will not replace us. Donald Trump said there are good people on both sides. Nobody called Donald Trump's hands on it. Over the years, Black men have been the only one forced to apologize. When Jesse Jackson was running for president and Farrakhan said something to offend the Jews, Jesse Jackson was called to denounce Louis Farrakhan. Barack Obama was forced to denounce his longtime pastor of 20 years. Kanye West lost millions of dollars in endorsements and other things because he said something that was deemed to be anti-Semitic. I don't think it was, whatever anti-Semitic is. Nick Cannon, the same thing. Kyrie Irving, the same thing. Whenever there's a strong voice of a Black man, the system seeks to silence it. The system seeks to silence the voice of a strong Black male. And sometimes they do it by conniving us to turn against one another, such as Charles Barkley turned against Kyrie Irving. And these things are historical. It goes deep because the governing society seeks to protect the system. And that is why the system must be uprooted. And I don't see the system being uprooted in my lifetime. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Pedro?
Yeah, I kind of see like the system being the gross wealth inequality. I mean, that's what's been generated through colonization and neocolonialism and all of these deals. And, you know, with President Obama, I agree, a president can't change things, but my Lord, wealth inequality continued to accelerate significantly under President Obama. I think he had one foot big time in Wall Street and was being owned and directed in a direction. A brilliant, brilliant man. But I think this issue of wealth inequality is really at the root, if you really want to get to the root, because the more wealth a group has, the more political power they have to influence the ideas of the epic. Mm-hmm. And right now, our group talks about these really revolutionary ideas, but we don't have political power. Like, we don't have the money to go onto TV and advertise those ideas in a way that rivals that deal. So, you know, again, I just wanted to re-indicate that the primacy of that, and that anytime that wealth is threatened, you know, you get the immense backlash that Reverend Larry was I think alluding to. And then lastly, if I could get this in real quick, you know, we rebelled against England for unfair taxation and all of these other regressions, but whenever another country does it, it's called communism or you know, something of that sort. And I think if we have more passion for the nationalist movements around the world, they're just trying to regain their economies that have been stolen from them by these more neo-colonial forms that we call U.S. foreign policy and Western foreign policy issues.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pedro. Sorry. Last but certainly not least, Glenn.
Well, there's no other country I want to live in. There's opportunity here. Under this system, one man can change the country. One man. He has the ability the freedom to talk to others and build up a group of people to make change. You know, I wouldn't want to live under the system that Russia is in. And how many, those people are just, they don't know it, but they're nothing but slaves. They can't vote nobody out. They can't get rid of somebody who's mistreating them. Well, we have the opportunity to get rid of people. And African Americans are more and more sitting on the sidelines and just complaining. Sitting on the sidelines and saying, this ain't my country. This sitting on the sidelines and not acting as though they got ownership here. If you don't believe you got no ownership here, well, what you complaining about? That's you. That's you taking yourself out of what a citizen has in the country. So I just don't agree with, I don't agree with the Indian, what he had to say, and especially when he talking about they bought some land in New York and then want to make it a reservation and come under no taxation. I mean, that would be like some Indian, the Homer Indians or the Choctaws coming in someplace in New Orleans, the New Orleans East that we have, and then say, well, yeah, I'm gonna exercise my tribal rights, and I'm going to exercise this territory, this 10 square blocks, and now I'm not going to be taxed because I'm an Indian. No.
Okay. Well, that was at time, and so there's a few people that didn't get to speak at all, so they get 2 minutes. And those people, and correct me if I'm wrong, are Leonetta, Nora, Cindy, Jean, Marva, Francie, Marla, Nancy, Lynn, and Michelle. So I'll start with Leonetta. If you want to do your 2 minutes, go ahead. Oh gosh, sorry. Stop. Leonetta, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, go ahead, sister.
I'll call you back. I thank you for the article. It was wonderful, and also I want to tell everyone that in the domestic violence community, Native American women have been reported being sexually assaulted and also missing. They end up missing, and nobody sees. We concerned about it, but the larger society is not aware of it and don't care, which is awful. But I just want to let y'all know that is happening in reservations all over the United States, that these women come up missing and very little is done about it. It's, full of territorial things and stuff, like who's going to investigate, and nobody investigates. Is it the civil authorities? Is it the people on the reservation? And nothing's done about it. So I just wanted to share that with everybody.
Yep, thank you. So Nora.
I have no comments, but I thank everybody for helping me to be smarter and enjoyed the discussion. Thanks.
Thank you, Nora. I'll see you tomorrow.
Okay.
Cindy. You're muted. Still muted. Still muted, babe. Shall I come back to you? I'm going to come back to you. Jean. Jean? Technical difficult. Oh, she had to leave early. Did she leave? Can you all see her? I think she might have left. Yes. Okay.
She left. Yeah.
Sorry. Marva.
I'm going to watch the video again, and it opened up my mind to American history. It gave me food for thought. I'm truly going to watch that again. Thank you for your views and thoughts on the video. I thoroughly enjoyed the discussion. Thank you.
Good. Thank you, Marva. Francie.
Well, it was a great discussion. On a kind of a personal note, I just wish I could go back to the 60s and relive my upbringing in Muskogee, Oklahoma, which had the 5 Civilized Tribes Museum, which I can't recall ever even visiting. And I don't recall ever seeing a person from one of those tribes around Muskogee. And that must have been my ignorance. It couldn't have possibly been true that they weren't somewhere around there. But maybe there was a 2-year college. Bacone College was about a mile from my house. And I went there one summer. I don't recall seeing any Native people there. That, once again, must have been my blindness or my ignorance. Couldn't possibly be that there were no Indigenous people at that school, since it had some dormitories where the kids could live there. But anyway, I think I missed some opportunities in my life for sure. The other thing that I had a personal experience with was working on a government project for housing for a village in the Navajo Nation up in the Four Corners. And we did go there once for a presentation. It was a very depressing little village town. And I had no background to even talk to those people in the village. Their outlook was so different. I don't know what I was doing there. It was true ignorance, and what a shame. Anyway, that's all.
Thank you, Francie. Thanks for sharing. You didn't miss an opportunity by joining Erace, though, so that's good.
True.
Cindy has lost connection, so.
Who has?
Me.
Cindy.
Okay, well, okay. So is she going to speak on yours, or?
I'd like that.
Sure.
Yeah,
Go
she's
ahead,
sitting
Cindy.
next to me.
Yep, go ahead. 2 minutes.
Okay. I'm sorry I'm not in the picture, but his picture screwed up anyway. This article is a really good illustration of the ignorance that we grow up with. We with white skin and white schools almost all my life. I grew up in the Carolinas and went north to college, then moved to Louisiana. You would think somewhere along the way I would have gained a lot in terms of awareness. Contact with a lot of other people in work is where the awareness comes from. And walking on picket lines and protests and all of that. Civil rights, anti-war, etc. But the schools are not doing a very good job of teaching our true history. And if it's true, for me, in all white public schools in the Carolinas, and then when I taught, same thing. We've got to get that changed. Kids need to know the amount of conflict and sadness and trouble and prejudice that's built into the systems here. Takes a long time to recognize it, but it's long overdue that we really focus on it with kids.
Absolutely true. Marla, you want your 2 minutes?
Yeah, sure. It's getting darker in my house because it's storming even more. Anyway, I have really appreciated all of the different viewpoints. I've just kind of been sitting here absorbing all of it. And I'm a dreamer, but I'm also a realist. And I do love the notion of collective memory, and that a community can share a rendering of their past that helps shape a collective identity. But I question whether the United States really ever wants that, really truly wants to live that. I don't think that we do as a nation, that we're interested in the idea of community per se. And I wholeheartedly agree with Pedro that it comes back to resources. If you relinquish the ideas that you uphold, then you're letting go of your power and subsequently your resources, your money. And you feel threatened by the idea of inclusiveness because of that. I think we like divisiveness in our country. We thrive on it. And I hate that for us. I don't know. I feel hopeless, but hopeful when I am in community with all of you. So thank you to one and all. I hope you have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you. Yeah, it's nice to feel this for 2 hours of a week, isn't it? Lastly, not lastly, we've got 3 more. Nancy, Lynn, and then Michelle. Nancy.
I love that video. I've since shared it and sent it to other people. It was really, really good. I don't tend to think of things in totally black and white or either or whatnot. I think there are varying shades of gray surrounding this topic. And I do think that while there has been some progress made, there is a long way to go. I think that an issue of divisiveness in this country, other countries are feeding that, are stoking those embers, and we're asleep at the wheel. We're so busy fighting amongst each other that other countries are plotting against us, and we do not see the big picture, and that is scary. It's scary that, the country is trying to be taken, these, MAGA fascists are trying to take us back to the 1950s and 40s, before civil rights, before women's rights, and they're picking away at it piece by piece. But also that other countries are plotting outside to play on those divisive issues and destroy us from within. And I think we really got to wake up and get the word out. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Lynn.
Well, I too was struck by the thought of common memories. We have a country with 300 or 400 years of history, and we cannot even agree what that history is. And there's a reason that the Republicans are attacking so-called critical race theory. What they mean by that is anything having to do with the history of African Americans in our country. And if we cannot teach these items in school or other places, we will not have a common history, and the same for Native Americans and other minorities in our country. Talking about our Constitution, I was a lawyer for about 25 years, and I was just infuriated by those people on the Supreme Court who nominated and recommended to Trump and others by the Federalist Society, who based their analysis on originalism. We have to interpret the Constitution according to the original thoughts of the founders. They do not want to have an organic constitution that grows as the country becomes more enlightened and understands and has sympathy for its fellow human beings. They want to go back to originalism. And that's why we have so many outrageous, wretched decisions coming out of the Supreme Court these days. I don't have time to talk about this, but I would just like to say, Reverend Larry, the video put on the website of that basketball player is based on the Protocols of Zion,
a forgery coming out of Russia at the beginning of the 20th century, suggesting that there's a worldwide conspiracy of Jews to dominate the world, and the Jews are vermin and serpents and less than human. I don't care if it's a black man or a white man or a woman proposing this theory. That was the basis of Hitler and the Holocaust. That kind of stuff just can't be spread around lightly. And white people have lost their jobs for saying nasty things about black people, but it's not a contest who's going to be punished for criticizing the other side. There has got to be an appreciation of all cultures. So and the reason that Trump wasn't punished for saying there are good people on either side, he's not punished for anything. He was the damn president of the United States and he got away with everything. But
thank you, Lynn.
I was offended by those statements.
Yeah, I'm happy that Stanton wasn't here. I'm sure he would have had something to say about it as well. Thank you, Lynn. And Michelle, lastly.
Yeah, I overall, of course, agree with almost everything that was said here. And Lynn, thank you for saying that about the anti-Semitic things. My husband's Jewish. He's not religiously Jewish, but he is Jewish of ethnicity. And so every time that something along those lines comes up about anti-Semitic things and certain people, like Louis Farrakhan, for example, there's an organization here in Austin called Austin Justice Coalition. And there's been... And it's run by people of color mainly, and run by a very intelligent and thoughtful Black man who started it. And I agree with everything he has put forth in this and what he's doing here. But when he invited somebody of Louis Farrakhan's, underneath Louis Farrakhan to come and speak for one reason or another, it kind of got flack here in Austin. And I have to say, I was really surprised that the leader of Austin Justice Coalition colluded with this person, because he really, I mean, the leader of Austin Justice Coalition really has some amazing things and has done some amazing things for the city to bring progress to it. So when anti-Semitic thoughts and were brought into this conversation, it just kind of derailed what had been put forward before. So anyway, I just thank you, Lynn, for your comments on that. You said it much more succinctly and eloquently than I did. Anyway, as always, I really appreciate conversations with you all. I wish we could continue to bring in more people so that we could continue to expand on our population of people that come into these conversations with us every week. And I think about that all the time. So I encourage everybody to continue to spread the word so that we can continue to grow. I'd love it, again, as me and Louise and Nora have been trying to do, to get a coalition of people here together in Austin. And I would encourage the people in New Orleans to try and meet in person again for a while. I mean, try at least once a month. I think community is, I think Marla was the one that was saying something about community being rebuilt. I think that's key here. And I've been trying to do that just in small pieces here in Austin. So I've been having block parties every couple of months on my street just to try and build just a small community of people here within my neighborhood. And I encourage anybody else who has ideas about how to do that. That's the way we're going to try and hopefully get this country back together.
Yeah. Thank you, Michelle. All right, everyone else is going to be for 1 minute. Obviously, you don't have to, you can pass, but let's start with Cheryl.
All I can say is thanks for bringing such a great article, Louise. Thank you, everyone, for all your honest and intelligent, making me more aware. I appreciate you all. Have a really great week.
Thank you, Cheryl. Larry.
Yes, Black men have been hung historically based on what somebody thought they said or thought they did. So somebody could perceive something to be anti-Semitic or even racist, but it doesn't make it so unless we have a conversation dealing with the person who said it. You know, Stevie Wonder said a long time ago in a song, "The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind." And I brought up Marvin Gaye last week. when he asked what's going on. That's still the relevant question today. And then he said the only love can conquer hate. And we could talk around in circles, but when we get down to the bottom line, only love can conquer hate. And unless love come into the midst of our conversations, hate will not be conquered. Thank you.
Thank you. Marion?
Once again, Luis, thank you for this very provocative and necessary topic. I believe there's because of the diversity in this country that we live in, there's a great deal of hypocrisy. And we are going to have to not be lulled into, pardon the cliche, lulled into a false sense of security. We have to be vigilant, and we have to speak out and act out legally, of course, in whatever way it takes to make sure we all are treated as what we are, human beings, no matter what some person who believes there's only a certain segment that's privileged or important. We are all important. We are all significant. We are all worthy of respect.
Thank you. Absolutely. Beatrice.
Thanks for the video and all conversation from everyone. I think that indigenous people are definitely owed for the land that was stolen, the genocide. I think something needs to be worked on with that. On the reservations, the rate of alcoholism, abuse, suicide are horrible. And I ask, who's going to call the meeting to destroy the roots of racism and white supremacy? I'm not sure who's going to call that meeting. We talked as if it needs to occur before we can move on. For me, it's too discouraging to feel that we're not going anywhere. I was in the civil rights movement when I was in college, and I know that we just can't surrender. I know it's easy to look and see how we need to strike at the roots of something, but we always need to keep working and keep moving and not stand still, because then the other group wins, because the evil is always working. So we just can't give up.
Thank you. We need that. Bill.
I want a great video, Louise. Thanks. I want to thank Greer for introducing yet another metaphor for racism, an infection that needs to be wiped out. I also want to thank Therese. Therese, I clicked on the link to your blog. I didn't want to read it too much now because I want to listen to the topic, but Cindy and I are going to explore it. It looks very interesting. Thank you.
Thank you. Cindy.
Cindy already had her 2 minutes.
She did?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. Then Greer.
It was a great video, very thought-provoking, brought up some things that I really didn't think about. But I'm going to say this. If you look at indigenous people and people of color in this country and abroad, we're all suffering in the same way. That's the commonality that we have. It's a universal thing against us. That's done by design. In order for change to truly happen systemically in this country, white people have to have a schism that has them break down what they've been taught to believe over and over and over again is the truth versus the reality. Because as long as you believe in your ethos of America and your manifest destiny, then my people and that of indigenous people in this country our issues mean nothing to you. And that's the truth.
Thank you. Teresa.
I would just like to say I really appreciate this group. There's another group that I participate at work, and we're called the Black Colleagues Resource Group. And I had the pleasure of introducing them to the word misogynoir. And they were very appreciative, like, of course that word resonated. And if anybody watches John Oliver on HBO, his Sunday night, there was a perfect example of misogynoir where you had this white male judge trying to force this Black woman who you could already tell she was nervous, make her say the word yes. And she was saying, yeah, she was saying, she was making all these affirmative things, and she never literally said the word yes, and he doubled her fine. Yes, that was very triggering to me, but I just thought, oh, look at misogynoir playing out in court and then the ramifications. So I really do appreciate what I learned from this group, and I try to share it with others, and of course write about it because I'm a writer. So thank you. Look forward to next week.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Glenn. Still with us?
Yes, and they show you that we see great value in the Republic of America. We are very nervous about this election coming up, of the Republicans taking over and taking away democracy. So if democracy and Constitution holds no value for us, we're saying that out of our mouths, but in our hearts, we feel something very deep, different. We fear democracy going away. We fear the Constitution going away. It has great value and meaning to us. And so let's stop pretending and putting all these old false lies up that the Constitution is a terrible document.
Thank you, Glenn. Amal, next.
Wow. Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed that video. I can't find nothing in that video that I disagree with. So that he spoke everything that I would have, even if not better. So that I agree with. As it relates to that video that Kyrie Irving posted on his Twitter, how many people can honestly say they saw the actual video? Or are we going by what people told us about what was in it? The title of the video is Hebrews to Negroes, Wake Up Black America. And what it entails is that Black people in America are members of the lost sheep of the house of Israel, the Bible, the people who are Israelites in the Bible. These are Black people in America. That's what the video talks about. And that hurts a lot of people in the Jewish community, because that's not a conversation that they want to have, that there are people who are not from Europe that can be Jewish, that could be Jews too, i.e. the Philippians.
Amal, the thing went off. Sorry.
No problem.
And then Phyllis, and then Pedro is last.
Well, somewhat get exhausted these days by the discussions. But I think Glenn maybe should watch the video a couple more times, because I don't think you fully understood. Yeah, I am scared of fascism taking over our country, but I also think that our Constitution has contributed to the ability to have fascists in our country. And I also want to say that it doesn't matter to me if it's Daddy Duggar with his however many children and counting, or Nick Cannon, who is what we used to call a manho, and you can spell that H-E-A-U-X since we're in New Orleans. Who they both just seem to need to have their seed out there for some reason, and it's kind of troubling. Like, who are you? And who? I mean, there's Daddy Duggar, as far as we know, only had one pregnant woman. But who are the women who just want to have Nick Cannon's baby? I don't know. So, you know, and also, I don't think I've ever heard Lynn cuss in our meetings before. And go, Lynn. Thank you. Thank you.
Pedro, sorry, we're kind of going over time a little bit here, but go ahead, Pedro.
Yeah, I appreciated what, Lynn made the comment, we have 300 to 400 years of history, and we cannot even agree what that history is. And that's the problem. I mean, we have to have some humility, and there's an expression I try to follow, which is not to believe everything I think, because it's affected by so much disinformation that I feel is perhaps good information. So critically thinking through all that. I think the comment I really wanted to make, though, was people getting exasperated about trying to make change. I think things such as reparations, that is wealth transfer. That's trying to correct wealth transfer. That is a tangible type of thing that I think needs to be front and center. So I'll end it with that. Thanks for a great video, Louise. Very thought-provoking.
Thank you. You're welcome. So sorry, we went a little bit over time, and I wrote down loads of notes that I want to get back to, but I'm not going to get to all of them because we've gone over time. But the Constitution really, I mean, we the people, as he said in the video, and also one nation under God, what's that all about? We're not, are we? We're maybe like a third that are under God, and then the other 2/3 are under something else. We're just not a gelled society, and these rules and regulations were written by old white men in the 1800s. It's ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous that we would be still following it now in this day and age. And I love the idea of the amendments. Yes, they're there to be changed. Don't even get me started with how badly treated the native peoples have been. And obviously it's means a lot to me. My husband, I think Roy, has Sioux blood. He was adopted in South Dakota in the 60s, which is and we just think that, I think he has native blood in him, Sioux blood. But anywho, that's just my thoughts. Oh my gosh, what else was it? Oh, royalist. Yeah, goodness sakes, get rid of them. Yeah, it's ridiculous. They were good for tourism, and I'm a Londoner, man. I'm a Londoner. There are so many amazing things in London to go and see and bring the tourists in, more than them. So yeah, bye royals, go. We're not needed here. That's my view. Anyway, that's the end. Thank you all so much. It was an interesting topic, and I think we should have more topics like this. And I really appreciate y'all's input, and I love you all.